I am Laura Dixon, and you are listening to the Naturally Thin for Life podcast, episode number 225, Being Wrong to Lose Weight Faster. Welcome to the Naturally Thin for Life podcast. Get ready to learn how to live in your dream body, free from all the diet rules. You're going to learn the naturally thin mindset and strategies so that you never need to count, track, or measure your food ever again. And instead, you get to live the rest of your life at your body's optimal weight with the peace and freedom you've been craving. Let's dive in. Hello, friends. Welcome to this week's podcast episode where we're going to talk about how to be wrong to lose weight even faster. So I want to start by talking about just the part of our human nature where we want to be right. We want to be right about how we think. We want to be right about what we do. And for most people, I think we do this somewhat unconsciously, but as part of our human nature, we want to have other people agree with us that what we're doing is right. And we want to know for ourselves that what we're doing is quote unquote right. For me personally, I have been thinking lately about emotions that I fear the most, or that I don't want to experience, or that I avoid. And usually it's shame, humiliation, and embarrassment. And all of those emotions for me stem from some thought that I did something wrong. There's something wrong with me. I am not thinking the right way. I'm thinking the wrong way, or I, did something that was not right. And for me, shame comes from telling myself like I messed up and I shouldn't have. And sometimes it's just between me and myself, like no one else really knows. But there's also times where I feel humiliation and or embarrassment when I maybe did something in front of other people that I thought wasn't right, or someone didn't agree with, or I think I did something or said something or thought something that was not right and someone else knows about it. And that's when I usually experience humiliation and or embarrassment. But all of these emotions for me in particular stem from doing something wrong. Saying, thinking, acting, quote unquote, wrong. And essentially for me, it's me realizing that I'm less than perfect. And I have a very high standard for myself. And when I realize, either just between me and me or between me and other people, that I'm less than perfect, my brain hates it. My brain does not want to be wrong. And it's actually part of our human nature that we don't want to be wrong, and we don't want other people to view us that way. And you can see that when researchers will ask people what their greatest fear is. And one of collective society's overall greatest fears is public speaking, because we don't want to be quote unquote wrong in front of our spouse or in front of our parents or in front of our best friend, let alone like hundreds or thousands of strangers that are all staring at us on a stage. Because as humans, we worry about what other people will think about us, and we want to be right. And I want to caveat this with that when I am sharing with you how to be wrong, and I'm going to share with you how it can actually be the fastest way to lose weight, and what I mean by that and why, and how to start being wrong for yourself to lose weight faster. When I am talking about being quote unquote wrong, I am not talking about the worthiness of you or another human. I'm not talking about the morality of something we did or said. And sometimes there are things that we want to be wrong about. If I messed up or I made a mistake and I want to apologize to someone, there are times that I want to admit to myself and to someone else that I'm wrong and that I made a mistake. And so there's times we want to do that. But mostly in today's episode, I'm going to talk about how we don't recognize our own desire to want to be right so badly, and how that can hold us back from losing weight. Now, this inclination to want to be right is sometimes stronger in certain people compared to others. You can ask my husband. For me, it's quite strong. Now, it's a work in progress, and I am coming to terms more and more with actually wanting to be wrong, because I see how beneficial it is when I want to make a change in an area of my life. And I'm going to explain more on this podcast and how you too can embrace this being wrong to lose weight faster. But it's just important to understand that it's a normal human condition where we want to be right. And you want to understand how powerful that can be. So think of all the ways that you experience this with yourself and with other people, even in seemingly small ways. Even think about when you have conversations with people. Someone might tell you where their kids go to school, and it's as if they're trying to convince you that your kids should go there too, but you live like an hour away or something, right? It's just like their human nature to want people to agree with them, to want to know they've made the right decision. And even if they truly believe they've made the right decision and they're not like doubting themselves and trying to get someone to agree just so they can feel better, it's just part of the human nature to want to be right and to feel like we've made the right choices and that we're thinking through things the right way. Or you can even think about someone telling you maybe they just bought this car and then they're telling you as if you should go get that same one because of this and that. And they're like talking about a Honda Civic that fits a couple people. And you're like, I've got 5 kids. Like just in your own head, you're kind of like, that's cool and all, but they're just telling you about this car. And part of it is that they're so excited about that, but they're also just wanting to confirm and reconfirm that the choice they made is right. So we can see this in so many conversations that we have as humans. And I don't think people do this consciously. Like I said, I just think it's part of the human condition where we want to ensure we made the right choice. And when we get agreement with other people, our brains are like, yep, confirmed, right choice. We're right. And then think about when someone is on a diet. Sometimes a person will be so excited about their diet. And I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about our choices and what we're excited about and what we're doing and what we're not doing. I just want you to notice all the ways that this comes up in your own mind and in conversations with other people. So when someone is really excited about a diet, often they'll go around telling so many people. And they'll be like, this tracker, it's the new best thing ever. And it does this, and it does this, and it does this, or this type of protein shake, and it's good for this, and it's good for this, and it's good for this, and it doesn't have this in it, but it has this in it. And they'll just like, right, they're like advertising the protein shake or the type of workout that they started trying. They'll start telling people of like why it's the greatest thing and what's so great about it and this and that. And like they might even be talking to someone who, can't even work out because they just had surgery or something. Who knows, right? And so sometimes, right, it is just out of that pure human connection where we're sharing something we're interested in. But oftentimes you can see examples in our day-to-day lives where people are trying to and subconsciously prove themselves right to themselves. Like I said, either in their own mind and or with other people, right? Because we all want assurance we're doing the right thing. So for you, think of ways that you do this. When I started paying attention to this human behavior of wanting other people to agree that, I made the right choice or that they made the right choice, I started noticing when I do it. And like I said, I don't think it's a good or a bad thing, by the way. I just find it interesting and fascinating, and it helps me understand the importance, the crucial importance of being wrong when you want to make a change, and how those of us, like me, who have a strong tendency to want to be right, how hard and challenging this can be. And when I then understand it's just simply part of human nature, I find it a lot easier to want to be wrong. And I see how much progress I'm able to make and how much change I'm able to make so much more rapidly. So for me, when I started noticing this, and I would notice in myself almost like this urge or compulsion to almost go out of my way to explain something to someone in my family, even like my extended family, because I wanted them to simply agree with me, to confirm that I was right about a decision I made or a specific topic. And again, it ranges from seemingly small, inconsequential decisions or thought processes to maybe something that feels more important and feels like a bigger deal. So I would be like trying to get these people on board for this reassurance to make sure that I said or did or thought the right thing. Now, this is so important when it comes to losing weight and really making any change for one primary reason. If you keep trying to prove that you are quote unquote right about your current thinking and mindset and actions, then you will not make a change because you will be trying to prove your current self right over and over and over again. And unless your current self is at the weight you want and it has the relationship with food and your body that you want, then you will never get to the land where you have a different weight and a different relationship with food and your body. So by default then, that means that in order to make a change, the current way you think and eat must be wrong. Because if it's different in the future as your naturally thin self, then that must mean that the way you're doing it today is in part, not fully, but in part wrong. And now to be clear, like I said before, I don't mean wrong morally. I mean wrong in the sense that what you're doing now, how you're thinking now, how you're behaving now, how you're making your food choices now, it's just simply not in alignment with how your naturally thin self thinks and makes her food decisions. So this is crucial to be aware of, especially if you have a strong personality that likes to be right and often feels like your mission to prove yourself right to yourself and other people in the world. If that's you, and all humans, but especially if that's your personality, then you must become aware of the ways in which you are trying to be right about your current thinking and eating habits that are actually not allowing you to lose weight. Where are you trying to convince yourself or prove yourself right to yourself? Yet you're not at the weight you want and you don't have the relationship with food and your body that you want. And this is really hard for some people because they've wrapped up so much of their identity in trying to be perfect, in perfection, and in being right. And I know this because that's kind of a part of my identity that I'm working to let go of, that we aren't perfect and we can't be right about everything. And actually being wrong is how you make changes. Think about yourself even today compared to yourself a year ago. What do you know now in an area of your life that you were totally wrong about a year ago or even last week? Pick whatever time frame. We are constantly learning and evolving and proving ourselves wrong in some areas of our lives. And when you want to make a significant change, it's really, really important that you let yourself be wrong. So here's a little secret. You don't need to tell anyone that you're wrong, but you need to tell yourself, oh, maybe I'm wrong about that, or maybe I want to be wrong about that. And what if you actually wanted to be wrong about your current weight loss approach? Because if you're wrong, then it means there's a way that's different than what you're doing right now that will allow you to reach your personal weight goals and your personal food relationship goals. When I remind myself of this, I'm like in my own head, I'm like, hold on, wait, I actually want to be wrong because right now I don't have the results I want. When I remind myself of that, I actually feel a lot of relief instead of like a fight that I want to have or like a wanting to prove myself. It's like, oh, that's right. I actually want to be wrong about this because then that means I can go find a solution because right now what I'm doing is not working. How I'm thinking about this is not working for me. So for example, I'm going to share with you a non-weight loss example, and then I'm going to share with you how this showed up in my own personal weight loss journey and some questions to ask yourself to know the areas in which you are currently like holding on, grasping on to being right, but that might actually be sabotaging your weight loss, and how when you want to be wrong about that, you will lose weight so much faster. For example, for me in my business, I had this issue come up where my emails stopped delivering to Gmail accounts for the most part. And that's over half of emails. It's like 60 to 65% of like all email accounts are Gmail accounts, which was representative in the thousands of email subscribers that I have. And the emails would get to a few people, but it wasn't even like going to people's spam. So I moved to a new tech platform. There's a lot of things that were happening behind the scenes. And there were some things that my team and I didn't understand when we moved to the new platform. And it was as if Gmail put up a wall and like nothing got in. It wasn't going to spam folders, there was just like a big brick wall and they just would bounce off every time that I would send an email to anyone with a Gmail account. So I spent months actually trying to fix this, and I would make improvements and I would see progress. And then I finally was like, I got it. I had to learn so much tech information I never thought I was going to learn, and all these things about email deliverability that I don't know if I am really glad that I learned, but I am. But it was just like a lot of technical information that took me several weeks to accumulate and figure out, like, how are we going to fix this? So then I finally was like, I have the plan, like the perfect plan. It was written out in an Excel sheet with a corresponding Word document with a checklist and a timeline and all the steps. And I was like, this is it. And by the way, this is really important to my business because emails are how I communicate with everyone in the Naturally Thin for Life membership. People were like, I'm not getting the call reminders. I'm not getting the call replays. Like, what about this? And these are people that I'm trying to contact and I like literally can't. And it's how I share the podcast with people on my email list. My emails are how I deliver trainings to people. So when someone comes to my website and they want to learn more, I send them an email with a training so they can learn about the Naturally Thin method. So someone would send me their email and say they want to learn more. And then it's just like nothing, crickets, right? So not really a good look if you are me owning this business. And it's how I let people know all of the benefits of the Naturally Thin for Life membership so they can decide if they want to join. So just in many ways, I was like pulling my hair out or wanted to pull my hair out, just like calming myself down, trying not to panic because email is a vital part of my business. So I made this plan. I'm like, this is it. And then I executed on this plan for weeks, made some progress, and then progress stalled. And then I stuck to the plan. My brain was like, no, this is right. This is the right method. I know I have the perfect checklist in my Excel spreadsheet. I have the timeline. This is how it goes. And after a few weeks of not making the progress I wanted, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. What if I'm just completely wrong about this being the best way to solve this? Not even like, oh, I just need to tweak this or, oh, I need to tweak that. I just thought, what if I'm just totally wrong about this particular solution being the best solution? And I just like thought about it for a little bit. And then I thought, you know what, I'll revisit it. And almost immediately, like within that same day, I had a new solution that was a complete pivot that wasn't tweaking what I was already doing. It wasn't trying to, just do a little bit more of this and a little less of this. I would have never been able to access that solution had I not first told myself, hold on, wait. I want to be wrong about what I think the solution is. Because what I currently think it is not working in the way I want. It's not working at the pace I want. It's not working to the magnitude I want. And when you do this, when you're losing weight, it will give you so much relief, so much freedom, and so much peace, and so much more creativity in the solutions that you implement. You won't feel as like tied so hardcore to a particular way of losing weight. And when it comes to losing weight, think about how long you've held on to being right for the sake of being right, even when you're not getting the result you wanted and the result that you currently want. Think about how long you maybe counted calories or tracked macros or did a certain exercise routine or trained for a marathon and you were not even enjoying running, right? Where we hold on to like, this is the plan. This must be how I approach my weight loss. Yet we're not seeing the results that we want. And so what if instead you asked yourself, what if I'm just completely wrong about this, completely wrong about what I think the solution is? So for me personally, I used to think counting calories was the way. And so you can insert whatever method that you either now or prior weight loss attempts have thought is like the way, like my Excel spreadsheet and my Word doc for my email list, right? What plan have you been very attached to? So for me, counting calories, I was like, no, this is the way. It makes sense intellectually. Calories in, calories out. There's energy. You need less energy going in than your body's burning. And so obviously you count calories. That just makes sense. And so I was so convinced that counting calories was the right way. So then I was like, okay, we got to get my Fitness Pal. We got to get my Apple Watch. We got to get all the trackers like linked up. We have to perfect the counting calorie program that we're doing. And I would like save meals and like exactly how many calories they were. And so I was like, this is the way. And so everything I did followed that approach and tried to fine tune that approach. But long term, I didn't want to be counting calories. And when I held on to like, this must be the way, and I had a gazillion reasons why it must be the way, right? There's this reason and there's this reason, and I read that book and it makes sense. And this is just how the energy works in your body, and like blah, 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 a million reasons. And so lost weight using this app, and like someone else lost weight counting calories. And I had even lost some weight losing calories, even though I was like, I don't know, 10 years from now, do I want to be counting calories? Probably not, but I was so convinced that it was the right way. And because I just want to be right and perfect, and I want to prove to myself that I am right, I was unwilling to let go of the fact that maybe calories and counting calories is not the best solution for me. And it's not the way that I want to lose weight. So I held on it way longer, held on to the counting calorie craziness way longer than I needed to, simply because I was unwilling to be wrong. And so here are some of the ways that I hear people talk about losing weight that are completely, quote unquote, wrong when I think about the possibility of feeling peaceful and free and living in your dream body without following a diet. And these are things that often I hear people say, and I don't think we realize, I don't think you realize, I don't think someone else realizes that what they are saying is potentially completely wrong. And again, remember when I say wrong, I simply mean not in alignment with how you want to eat and live for the rest of your life. Not in alignment with your naturally thin self. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you or anything wrong with your body or anything morally or about your worth. None of that. I just mean wrong in the sense that it's not in alignment with your future self at your goal weight, with the exact relationship with food in your body that you've always wanted. So some of the ways that I hear people talk about losing weight that to me are all red flags and they are wrong when I think about being naturally thin, these are some of them. The first is, like I said, that I need to count calories to lose weight. Or I will hear people say, I know what to eat for my body. I just need to follow through on that. Or I will even hear people say, well, I know what to eat for my body. My body just isn't losing weight. And when I hear that, I think, but if your body wants to lose weight, if you know it has excess weight, there's something that's not right in how you are currently eating for your body. But people they want to be so right about how they're eating for their body. And I've experienced this too. I've shared before that I was plant-based for several years. This was years ago before I was pregnant with my first son. And I was so convinced that I had to eat that way forever, that I know what to eat. I know what's best for my body. And when I got pregnant, I just could not stop thinking about red meat. And so I did finally eat some meat, and I actually felt quite a bit better. And I continued eating meat for several years. I don't really now because it just doesn't feel good, not because I was convinced that I was eating the right way and I had to stick to that plan. But if you're not losing weight in the way you want, you're not feeling the way you want, but you're holding on to the belief, but I know what to eat for my body and I'm doing that, but your body's not losing weight. What if you were totally wrong about that? What if you didn't actually know how to eat perfectly for your body? Another thought I will hear people say is, I know what to do. I just need to do it. As if they're like, I know what the plan is. I just need to execute on it, right? But the executing is the biggest part of it. And so if you know what to do and you just need to do it and you're not doing it, what if you were wrong about that? Because what if that is a cue to you that you're making it way harder than it needs to be? There's something that you're procrastinating about that maybe isn't a part of your future naturally thin self. Because guess what? Even telling yourself, I know what to do, I just need to do it, it's wrong in the sense that your naturally thin future self, she would never say that to herself. She always knows what to do. Even when she overeats, she knows exactly what to do to get back to feeling the way she wants to feel in her body. Another thing I will hear people say is, I just need to exercise more. What if you were totally wrong about that? Or people will say, I don't like feeling hunger. Hunger's painful. Hunger's uncomfortable. Or I will hear people say, I have to force myself to be hungry all the time to lose weight. What if you were totally wrong about that? I need to feel full before I go to bed. What if you were wrong about that? I don't like the scale. It's hard to lose weight. I just love food too much to lose weight. It's too hard to stop eating. I can't lose weight because I'm a certain age, because I have little kids, because I have a stressful job, because my husband won't change his eating habits, because of X, Y, and Z, fill in whatever reason. But what if you were willing to be wrong about whatever reason you're telling yourself that you aren't at the weight you want, or the ways in which you think you're maybe doing the right thing, but you're not getting the result that you want? What if you blank slated it all and just was like, I'm going to give myself a blank slate. I'm going to pretend potentially that everything that I think right now about losing weight was completely wrong. And I'm going to give myself this blank slate. And then I'm going to imagine my naturally thin self. And I'm going to think about what is so different about the way she lives her life compared to me now. And what areas am I currently wrong about? Because imagine this too. What if being wrong actually leads to faster results and better results? If I had held on to my personal belief from years ago that counting calories was the solution, like the solution, I was convinced, was the solution to losing weight, I would still be counting calories or trying to see how that was the right way and telling myself, well, I know what to do. I just need to count calories, but it's terrible and I don't want to do it. Or I'd be trying to, whatever the new app is, counting calories, and I'd be still, micromanaging every little morsel of food I put into my mouth. And then some days saying like, screw it and just eating whatever I wanted. I'd still be trying to find how to make calorie counting work for me. To me, now that sounds terrible. So when I was willing to be wrong about that, the way I approached weight loss completely changed. And I will tell you, the one thing I personally needed to be most wrong about when it came to losing weight was that I thought I could never be naturally thin. I was so convinced that it wasn't possible for me. I can never do that. It's not for me. It's never been that way for me. It could never be easy. It's for other people. And so when I was really convinced and convincing myself that I was right about this, that I could never be naturally thin, that it could never be easy, that it is for other people, then what I would do is I would solidify that belief for myself. And so what I would do is I would compare myself to other women and I would find all the ways to prove how I was right. I would look at other people and be like, well, she walks to work every day, so that's why she can be thin. That's why it's for other people. That's why it will never be for me. Or she has more money than me, so she's able to have a personal trainer. So that's why she gets to be naturally thin. That's why it's not easy for me. That's why it's for other people. That's why I could never do it. Or I would say, well, she doesn't have a successful career. She's not career oriented. And so that's why she's thin. She just has way more time than me, and she's not as stressed as me, and she gets more sleep than me, and she can exercise whenever she wants and grocery shop and meal prep. And so that's why this other woman I'm imagining, right? And I would do this with people all of the time, like people I knew, people on TV, and I don't even think I realized how much I was doing it. I was just like reiterating in my own mind how I could never be naturally thin, it could never be easy, and it's for other people. And then I would, reflect on my childhood and think, I have always thought about food more than my friends and other people, even from like my earliest childhood memories. So losing weight, of course, will never be easy for me. It's just not for me. The amount of time we spend, and I spent, and you've probably spent trying to prove ourselves right is kind of insane when you think about how sabotaging it is. And as soon as I started thinking, hold on, wait, what if I'm wrong about that? What if I'm wrong about me never being able to be naturally thin? What if I'm wrong about the ease? What if it's actually easier to be naturally thin than live in this struggle world that I'm living in? And I was like, what if it's not just for other people, but it is for me? And I was literally willing to be wrong about what I had spent so much time and energy and effort trying to prove right to myself. All of a sudden, I was like, hang on, maybe I'm wrong about how I've been approaching this. I'm wrong about how possible it is for me. And I could be naturally thin. It was as if a whole new world opened up. I can't even tell you, as soon as I was willing to be wrong about that it's not possible for me, I could never do that, it could never be easy, it's for other people, and I embraced the willingness to be wrong, all of a sudden I started seeing examples in my life, and I started reading books, and I started noticing habits that I had that were already like naturally thin people. And I started then asking myself and imagining myself as naturally thin. All of a sudden, the time in which it took for me to lose weight became so much faster and so much more rapid. And I think I've shared before on this podcast, I still remember vividly getting on the scale and seeing 151 pounds. And I always had this like deal with God. And I would literally, at the time, this is like over a decade ago, but I would literally like pray and be like, God, if I could just be 160 pounds, like, do you know how grateful I'll be? And I'll do this and I'll do this. And if I could just not only be 160 pounds, but just get there and never worry and never struggle with it. Like, I had all these promises that I was like going to fulfill because I was just like, I just need to be free from this struggle. So that was my deal with God. And I remember getting to 151 pounds, really using and starting to use a lot of what I teach in the Naturally Thin method. And of course it's refined and it's way better than it was for me back then. But I remember seeing 151 pounds and I was like, wait a minute, this is for me. This actually has been easier. And I'm actually almost like 10 pounds less than where I thought that I would be. Because at the time I thought 160 was only, I was like, I'm never going to get below that because that's the lowest I ever got when I was training for a marathon. I had all the reasons why that was like, that's just it. Anything below that, just whatever, who cares? That's not even possible for me. And when I started really listening to my body and using this naturally thin method that I now is so ingrained as a part of my life that now I teach other people, it was as if I was like, I'm so glad that I was wrong. I'm so glad that I was wrong about it not being easy. I'm so glad I was wrong about it not being for me, because it is for me and it is easy. So for you, think about the exact body weight you want to live in, the exact relationship with food you want. Imagine that being your reality, not just like in fairy tale land, but actually imagine like in your current house where you live, in your current drive to work where you live, with your current coworkers and meetings. Imagine that in your day-to-day reality. Then ask that version of you who has the exact body weight you want, the exact relationship with food you want, and feels the way she wants to feel physically in her body. Ask that version of you, hey, you, future self who has all this that I want, what do I most need to be wrong about right now in this moment? And see what she tells you. It's actually kind of freeing to want to be wrong, to embrace and have the relief and the freedom of realizing, hold on, I do want to be wrong about this. Being wrong means I'm actually going to make a permanent change, because if all I do is keep trying to be right, I'm going to keep having the same exact result that I have right now. So what does your future naturally thin self, you want to really imagine her, imagine that reality of the exact relationship with food in your body that you want, the exact physical feeling in your body that you want, and see what she would say to you as if you were having a conversation with her and you asked her, what do I most need to be wrong about right now in this moment? And her answer for you may just surprise you. So there's one more part of this that I want to mention so that if you experience it, you can remember, wait, hold on, this is normal. Do not fear. This is just a part of the process. And what I want to share with you is that remember that when you make a change, that other people still want to prove to themselves that they are right. And like I said before, I don't think people do this consciously or with ill intent for the most part. And whether you are talking to or have an experience in your life where you're maybe sharing that you've made a change, or maybe someone notices that you've made a change, people like familiarity. And so when something changes, it's like a red flag just like goes up in their brain without them even knowing it, like what, that they've made a change. And when we do something that someone else perceives is in direct conflict to what they're doing, and we maybe want the same result, we want the same goal, sometimes then people will share all the reasons why what you are doing is wrong. So what I mean by that is, imagine you are losing weight the naturally thin way. you are not counting calories, but maybe you have certain people in your life that are obsessed with counting calories and they love counting calories. And you have talked about, the greatest, latest tracking app. And maybe you don't wear your Apple Watch anymore. And they're like, wait, what? How do you know how many steps you're taking? And no, you need to know. And they'll start telling you why you need to do what they are doing. It's really important to just remember that, again, that's just our human nature where we want to be right. So just like we ourselves want to be right, other people want to be right. And so it can be really important to just recognize that, oh, that's right. A lot of times when someone else is offering me an opinion, especially when we have a similar goal, let's say of losing weight, a lot of time the quote unquote advice they're offering me is them kind of subconsciously just trying to tell themselves and get reassurance that what they are doing and that their approach is right. It has nothing to do with me. And so when I remember that this is just part of human nature, then all of a sudden I stop feeling like, why is someone trying to convince me that what I'm doing is wrong about a choice I've made, right? And especially when you feel really solid and certain in that what you're doing is right for you. And like I said at the very beginning of the episode, I'm not talking about when I messed up and I said something that maybe offended someone, or someone was upset with me for something I said, or they wished I would have done something different, right? In those instances, I want to reflect and I want to understand what I did and why, and I want to apologize. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a personal choice in how I eat that doesn't impact someone else, right? Like my food, my exercise habits, and then someone else is trying to tell me how their way is right. And when I can then just remind myself, oh yeah, that's right. This person's opinion about my choices is just coming from a place where they want to be right. And funny thing, I like to be right. They like to be right. So we actually have a lot in common. And then what you can do is you can go back to your future self and think, okay, that future me who has the exact body weight I want, feels the exact way she wants in her body, and feels physically the way she wants and has the relationship with food that she wants, that version of me, is what I'm doing right now something that my future self would appreciate and say thank you to me for? And if my answer is yes, my future self is like, yes, ding, ding, you're on it. What you're doing right now, I'm so thankful that you're doing that. If the answer to me is yes, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because I get to decide what's best for me, just like you get to decide what's best for you. So just make sure when you're deciding what you are doing and your approach to losing weight, that it isn't simply coming from the desire to be right, but you want to be willing to be wrong so that you can have a changed permanent relationship with food and your body. So my friends, I hope you enjoy being wrong about how you currently approach losing weight, and you can see what changes for you and how you will actually lose weight faster. And if you are enjoying this podcast and you find it helpful, I'd love if you could write and leave a review, because every time you leave a positive review, it helps Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to the podcast know to share it with other people like you who haven't found it yet. And I read every single review. Someone actually just left one saying how she wished she would have found the podcast earlier in her weight loss journey because it's actually working what she's implementing. And she said that she wouldn't have wasted so much time and money on things that didn't work. And that is my mission for all of you who are here and listen to the podcast, to help women who want to lose weight do so without dieting so that you too can live with the freedom and peace of living at your goal weight without all the diet rules. So thank you in advance for taking a minute to write and leave a review. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will talk with you all next week. Hey friend, if you're enjoying the podcast, I invite you to come and check out the Naturally Thin for Life membership at naturallythinforlife.com/join, where you'll learn the full Naturally Thin method broken down into simple and doable steps so that you lose the weight you want peacefully and rapidly and keep it off with ease for the rest of your life. The Naturally Thin for Life membership provides you with the tools to not only lose the weight you want, but customize your mindset and your habits to your unique body and life. As part of the membership, you also get an implementation workbook to ensure your inevitable success. Head over to naturallythinforlife.com/join to get an inside look and tour of the Naturally Thin for Life membership. Hear from countless women who've utilized the tools and the extraordinary successes they've been able to achieve. I hope you join us over there at naturallythinforlife.com/join.